Hello friends, some breaking news today on the Dallas Cowboys Report. Unfortunately, Randy Gregory has been suspended once again by the NFL. It's his fourth suspension, this one an indefinite one for substance abuse, violating the terms of his conditional reinstatement. We don't have the exact details on what triggered it. Could have been a positive test, could have been a missed test. Either way, both count the same for the NFL. So unfortunately for the Cowboys, doesn't look like they'll have Randy Gregory on the roster next year. All of a sudden, defensive end, which you felt pretty good about, you assuming you re-signed DeMarcus Lawrence, you still had Tyrone Crawford. Now you lose Randy Gregory to suspension. Now you're thin. Dorance Armstrong, Taco Charlton, those guys didn't make an impact last year. They really didn't. Taco had a sack or two. Dorance Armstrong was pretty much a non-factor. Now you're looking for another speed guy to pair across from DeMarcus Lawrence, who, by the way, is going to just to his advantage and say, hey, pay me big money right now because you can't afford to not have me. So defensive line, really DE and DT, jumps back up the Cowboys' needs list. We did a mock draft, which we'll release to you guys later on in the week. Didn't have defensive end being taken. That might need to change now. So again, Randy Gregory has indeed been suspended by the NFL. It's a very disappointing turn for Gregory, who seemed to get things back and played the entire season. There were reports from Jason La Canfora and Adam Schefter that a suspension was going to come in the season. It never happened. Now we get to early February, just before the NFL Combine, and the NFL suspends Gregory for a substance abuse violation. Indefinite suspension. We don't know if or when Gregory will come back to the Dallas Cowboys, but it does leave the Cowboys thin defensive end. A big blow for a player that me and I think many of you were excited about. He showed all this ability. He was on the field more. A little bit of a slow start, got going, finished the year with 6 sacks, became, at least in terms of production and on the field stuff, a reliable second pass rusher for the Cowboys across from DeMarcus Lawrence. That is something you can no longer count on. After a very good year, 6 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, made some impact plays, that all seems like it's not going to matter next year. Gregory suspended by the NFL indefinitely. Now the Cowboys might have to readjust their offseason plans. They thought about going after Earl Thomas. Now with Gregory suspended, which I would hope the Cowboys had some inkling of, they got to at least look at some defensive ends. Maybe it's in the draft. Maybe they go sign somebody. But the number one priority, which it already was, you got to re-sign DeMarcus Lawrence. Now, you cannot lose Tank and Gregory in the same season. And Lawrence, for his contract, it might have gone up. My initial projection was 5 years, $104 million, 64.5 of that guaranteed, 11% of the cap. You can make it 6 and project it out. He might easily get $22 million a year now. And his numbers the past 2 years, they have been better than Khalil Mack. This is, I think, potentially a double whammy here for the Cowboys. A, you lose Randy Gregory, which we know what that does to you on the field in terms of your pass rushers. And now if you're DeMarcus Lawrence and your agent, maybe not the best thing to say, but it's the reality, he's going to use this to his advantage and up the price potentially for the Dallas Cowboys. So not having Gregory next year is a big blow to Dallas. You can still use Tyrone Crawford at defensive end. The question becomes, do you bank on Taco Charlton and or Dorance Armstrong emerging as the guy to replace Gregory's 6 or 7 sacks, which I think he would have gotten next year, if not more so? Or do you go out and sign somebody? Do you go out and draft somebody in round 2, round 3 early on? I think it alters your offseason plans. Of course, it's not what the Cowboys wanted. They always knew Randy Gregory was a bit of a risk here because of his past and because the reality of addiction is very tough to break. It's a big blow for the Cowboys. This is not what they wanted, certainly not what they would have preferred to have happen there. So again, Gregory suspended by the Dallas Cowboys, an indefinite suspension. He now likely joins David Irving, who not going to be back on the Dallas Cowboys next year. So the Cowboys had 2 high-impact players who were very tough to trust. David Irving, Randy Gregory. I knew Irving was not going to come back, and now it seems like Randy Gregory will not return either. Again, if you're just now joining us here on Facebook and on YouTube, Randy Gregory has indeed been suspended by the NFL, an indefinite suspension for substance abuse for the violation of his conditional reinstatement. Could have been a failed test, could have been just a missed test. The NFL has really tried to be better about this in terms of the way they handle players. But at a certain point, I don't think they can put up with it anymore. So whatever Gregory did, it triggered an indefinite suspension. It leaves the Cowboys thin at defensive end. It's a very big blow to the Dallas Cowboys. Hopefully Randy's able to get his life back in order, but in the meantime, the Cowboys are not going to have his services. And once again, you have to approach the offseason like you're never going to get Randy Gregory back again. That leaves you DeMarcus Lawrence, Tyrone Crawford, and big question marks in Taco Charlton and Dorance Armstrong.